Hey everybody, this is Vic Moss with Moss Photography and Drone Service Providers Alliance. I've been talking a little bit about the Ops Over People, Ops Over Moving Vehicle waiver that I received a couple, 3 months ago. And I've been telling everybody I was going to share that as soon as I could with the entire 107 public. I was hoping to have my modification in time before we did this, but I did not. So I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway so people can get in the queue. My waiver is for the DJI Mini 3 Pro. The modification is for the DJI Mini 4 Pro. So hopefully I will get that. Once I do, I will put the link down below with that information. But in the meantime, here it is for the Mini 3 Pro. With this waiver video, we're going to go over the drone zone because not a lot of people have actually filled out a waiver before. With the demise of the 107.29 daylight waivers, we haven't really needed that many. But we'll start with going over the waiver application in the drone zone, show you how to do that, show some of the links that are pretty important when you're going to do a waiver, whether it's the 107.39, 107.145, or if it's some other waiver that you're doing. You will need those links. It's some great links the FAA has posted there that kind of give you some leading questions, give you some information about exactly what they're looking for. And so that'll be very helpful not only with this waiver, but with any waiver you might happen to do in the future. I will also go over the application process, how you do it in the drone zone. What we go over with the Ops Over People, Ops Over Moving Vehicle safety mitigations. I will tell you that do not copy and paste my application, which you will also have access to. Again, there'll be a link down below. You click on that link and you can download the application, the actual waiver itself, which you can already get a hold of if you want at the 107 waivers page that the FAA has. And also kind of a sample operation manual and a couple of logs that you need to have as well. So again, just samples, just examples of what you need to do. Go ahead and modify those as you need, as well as definitely, again, I'll say, do not copy and paste my application into your application because the FAA will deny it. There are not a lot of these out there, and there's not a lot of people who actually review these waivers. So if they see one that is worded like mine, they will have a nice rejection letter sent to you and say, try again. So don't do that. Plus, it's a good idea. You should understand what you're doing anyway. You should understand what you're applying for. So you need to put it in your own language, think of it in your own way, and make sure you do it that way. So let's get into it. First, let's go to the drone zone itself. I'm assuming at this point you have your own drone zone dashboard, and so we'll just go right into that. We'll start out here in your dashboard. You'll want your 107, not your recreational flyer, but your 107 dashboard. And you'll scroll down. You'll have your inventory here, Part 107 users here, and obviously if you're not familiar with it, your accident reporting. If you ever have an accident, you need to report it. This is what you do here. Currently do not have any accident reports. I would like to keep it that way. But anyway, that's not why we're here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into your Part 107 waivers and airspace authorizations part of the dashboard, so that section. And here are the links that really will help you do a lot. So click through those, take a look at them. You'll be able to do things. The FAA will explain certain things to you. This is a really helpful one here where it will tell you how they evaluate. But here's the main one we want right here. But look at all of them. There's certainly some good ones. But look at all of them. But this is the one we want right here. And this is the Waiver Safety Explanation Guidelines and Guiding Questions. So the WSEG. Click on that. And here is what you're going to want to work with here. I'll bump this up just a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, easier to see. But these are the guidelines and the guiding questions that the FAA actually puts out for you if you're going to go ahead and do a waiver. It's really important that you follow the link you want because that will tell you what questions you will be wanting to answer. We're going to do two here. We're going to do operations over human beings, and then operations over moving vehicles. These are the two we're going to do. So this is the last one, obviously, and here's the questions you want to do. We'll scroll back up to the top here. But this is the one we'll start with, operations over human beings. Again, these are what you do. You only need to do this waiver if you can't satisfy the requirements of Subpart D, which is, as hopefully most of us know, Category 1 through 4, Ops Over People. If you need to fly outside of that criteria, then you do need a waiver, and that's what this is for. Once you get to the correct section, so this one being operations over human being, you're going to want to copy and paste these 4 questions right here into either Pages if you're on a Mac like I do, or you can do Word, you can do whatever. Whatever program you're using to write with, that's what you want to copy it into. The reason for that is because these are the questions the FA wants you to answer, so why not ask them again? Here's question 1, here's my answer. Here's question 2, here's my answer. Here's question 3, A, B, and C, here's my answer. For this particular one, for question 4, it talks about a parachute. We're not using a parachute for this waiver, so you just put NA, not applicable. Do not answer one of these questions. So these are the ones for 107.3.9, and you go down all the way to the bottom. Here's the ones for 107.4.5. So very similar questions because it's very similar operations, and it's going to be very similar answers. So let's go back and go into our drone zone actual dashboard, which is right here. So what you're going to want to do is right down here, create a Part 107 waiver or authorization. That's where you start. Again, you're back in your dashboard. Hi, Victor. This yours obviously won't say Victor unless your name is Victor. Click on that. It's going to ask you this question next. Are you going to do an operational waiver, or are you going to do an airspace authorization? If you're trying to fly outside established 107 norms, so outside of the regulations under 107, then you're going to want an operational waiver. If you're trying to fly in airspace outside of, like say, UASFM, or if you're going to fly in controlled airspace where you're not allowed, DOD, stuff like that, you need to get an airspace authorization. So that's what you want to do for airspace authorizations, but we're not doing that. We're going to do operational waiver. Click Start Application, and it's going to ask you about your con ops. It's going to have these fun things. What's really great about the way the waiver application process is set up now is it leads you through a series of questions. And as you answer these questions, relevant waivers will pop up over here. Right now there's zero relevant waivers because we haven't done anything yet. So kind of watch over here. It shows you as we get down towards the bottom which waivers pop up. You need to answer every single one of these questions so you can move on to the next one. Time of day. We want to fly 24/7. So we're going to click out daylight. We're going to click civil twilight. If you notice, this popped up over here. And we're going to click night. Now, are you going to do your flying, if you under civil twilight or night, with lighting? Yes, for this waiver we are. Good. Weight. One of the main criteria of ops over people is weight, because the main criteria itself is kinetic energy. So it's weight times speed, velocity. Well, that's not the exact formula, but you know what I mean. So we're going to go with grams, because I'm working in grams in this particular point. We're going to go 380 grams because as my waiver is written currently, that's the max weight I'm allowed. And I'll get into that here in just a bit. So that's why I said 380 grams. My waiver application for modification says 385 grams, which I will talk about here in a minute. Are you transporting property? No, we're not. Your control station. Now, this is an interesting question. It's a little bit of a confusing answer, but your control station, believe it or not, is a stationary vehicle. You're not moving around. The other options are moving around. You could put other, but just put stationary vehicle because that's basically what it is. Are you going to stay within line of sight? Absolutely. And are you going to have your 3 statute mile visibility during the duration of the flight? Yes, absolutely. If you click no, then you're going to have that waiver right there. So we want to click yes. Now again, we're back to 0 waivers. Operational detail for the drone. Are you going to fly single? Yes. Are you going to give way to other aircraft? Yes. Max ground speed. Now here we're talking meters per second because that's again how my application is set up, and we're going to go with 10. That's very important for this waiver because, again, it's the speed and the velocity are what determine the kinetic energy, which is what ops over people flights are all about, the kinetic energy transference. So max altitude for here, we're just going to put 400. Well, once we get into the actual mitigations, we're going to bump that up a little bit for obvious reasons, including the 400-foot radius within the obstacle. Or within a structure, sorry. And are we going to fly at least 2,000 feet horizontally, 500 feet below clouds? Yes. We're not applying for that waiver. Still, 0 relevant waivers so far. That means you've answered all these other questions right. Here's where we get to the meat and the potatoes, right? Operations over people. Watch right here. Yes, I want to fly over people. Operational category. We are applying for a non-compliant drone category because if it was Ops 2, 3, or 4, or 1, although that's not a waiver, or in the waiver listed, we wouldn't need the waiver, right? So non-compliant, watch right there, boom, there's the first one we need, okay? And since If you're flying 1, 2, 3, or 4 category drones, ops over people drones, you are automatically allowed to fly over moving vehicles. Transition, basically, not directly or not continuously. So we're going to apply for this too. And there, boom. Those are the waivers we need to apply for. Okay, nice and easy. Nice and easy. So click next. You kind of review what you're doing here. Yes, yes, yes. Next. It tells you again, these are the 2 you're applying for. If you want to apply for some more, you can start clicking it, but you don't want to click that. You just apply for these 2 right here. Operational title. Basically, name this whatever you want. You can name it Bob, Pete, Frank, George, Linda, Sarah, Susie, whatever. All that matters is you're going to come back and finish this, so you need some way to reference this. So I'm just going to put OOP test. They already have it once, so I'll just put it again because I know it's not there now. I'll just put test 7 because that way it is. I've done this a number of times, different seminars and webinars, so that's the new one. Hit continue, and there we are. We're at the operational title, responsible party, what your address is, and the pilot. Now, you need to put a pilot down. It can be yourself, which is what I'm doing, but if you're going to let other people fly under your waiver, then you need to add them to your list once you get the waiver. So right now, just put the pilot yourself. Personally, it gives me very rare circumstances. I'm going to let another pilot fly underneath my waiver. That's just me. I'm very conservative when it comes to things like that. And you can go ahead and enter your RPIC cert here if you want. I do not have that in there right now. And then next, here's where we get into the meat and potatoes. Again, more meat, more potatoes. You're going to need to have your waiver safety explanation, which we'll talk about, for not only the 107.145, but 107.13 or 107.39. Too many numbers. And we'll talk about this here next, and your operational parameters, your start, dates, what you're going to do, and we'll cheat here a little bit on that, and your maximum flight. But we'll get all back into this in a bit. And here's the reason why I said you need to go ahead and give your waiver a name. Because what's going to happen is when we come back to do this, I'll click out of that, click into this. When we come back to do this, you're going to go into your drafts. Remember I said ops test number 7? This is what you're going to need to do. So when you go back into this, which we will here in a little while, you need to click back into that. So we're going to go ahead and get out of this and talk about my actual application and what to do. The reason I had you go ahead and copy and paste all those questions into a separate document is because you're going to just answer them. Our job when we're filling out a waiver is to make it as easy as possible for the waiver office to kind of get the answers you're looking for and make sure we have the right answers. Best way to do that, again, is you copy the questions that are on the WSEGs and then answer them accordingly. Okay, so as you do this, you're going to fill all this stuff out. And here is my waiver safety explanations for ops over moving vehicles. And do go ahead and look through this, but again, do not copy and paste. And remember when I mentioned don't leave anything unanswered, do not answer. Number 4 was talking about parachute, NA, right here. So NA on that. Let's talk about some of the other ones then that we're going to look at. You're going to have, this is my waiver, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Aircraft log. This is maintenance log, okay, and this is my waiver number, but yours will be different, obviously, and just use these as samples. You're not going to want to use these verbatim. And here is actually what drones are on there, because not only do you have to keep a list of pilots that fly under your waiver, you have to keep a list of drones that are allowed to fly under your waiver, and you're only allowed to fly with the drone mentioned in your application, which is why I modified mine, hopefully, to get the Mini 4 Pro. As it is now, I can only use the Mini 3 Pro. I don't see an issue with the Mini 4 Pro simply because it's only 5 additional grams, and even at the highest kinetic energy transference, it only bumps it up about 1.01%, those extra 5 grams. So that's what you want to do. And again, here's the application, right? The application explanations, and this is what you would copy and paste into your actual application when you go ahead and go to it. I'm going to talk a little bit about operational parameters because we will copy this into. Right now, it's taken 2 to 3 months for waivers, and this is October 31st, 2023. I don't expect that to get any shorter anytime soon, but at some point it probably will. So start your date no matter when you do it. Start it 2 months from your application date. That's just a suggestion on my part. If it's approved before that, then the date will change when you get your application approval. If it's after that, they'll just change the date accordingly. End date 12/31/2027. My current waiver is through the end of the year 2027, and you can only do 2026 in the application, but they will grant you that once you are approved. Location of operation for me is all controlled and uncontrolled airspace where drones are permitted. So basically all of G, and if you're in controlled airspace, you can fly up to the UASFMs. Okay, so we have that, and we won't take place any flights outside the UASFM limits unless we go through and do further coordination via the drone zone. Okay, you cannot apply for a manual request with the waiver attached through land. So you have to do that through the drone zone. At this point, it may change in the future, but right now that's how it is. And remember, I mentioned that it's 400-foot AGL. We're going to add in to the safety mitigations. You can have your 400-foot radius, and then up to UASFM limits. So that's the kind of the caveat, and this covers that 400-foot limit that you have in your application process. One thing you will need to do is have your operational manual. And so here's mine. It's just real basic. I will make this even more so, more detailed later. But for now, this is what we're using. One thing I forgot to show you when I had all the other PDFs open was I just went down and I just kind of did a brain dump on the different types of mitigations I thought would work well for the waiver, the Ops Over People waiver. Have such things as 50-foot minimum, 75-foot minimum under daylight or under night conditions. And one thing I've done with my modifications, I've changed 50 to 25, so hopefully I'll get that. But then I went and I just figured out all the foot-pounds of kinetic energy at different weights, different classes, or different speeds, and these are the ones I came up with. Here's the calculators here. Again, I'll go ahead and put these in the notes below. But this is something also you want to read, and also this is where I did my wrote the mitigations until I put them out separately. So anyway, this will also help you set things up and figure out exactly how to write this, and these are my safety notes. And so use these as well, but again, one more time I'm going to say, do not copy and paste this particular part of the waiver process. And then here is my certificate of waiver. This is the actual waiver itself. I want to go over a few parts of this right now. So here's the title. This is what it's what I have waived. You have operations over human beings and over moving vehicles. All waivers have these standard provisions. Okay, every waiver out there has these standard provisions, and some even have a few more. But this is a standard provision. One thing you have to do is carry it with you. Okay, you have to carry it with you, and you have to also carry the application. Okay, that's important. You have to have the application attached to the waiver, so make sure you print that out. I wish that when you got your waiver that the FAA would then also give you your application, because it'd be in the same type form, but that's not what they do right now. So you have to do it yourself. You're responsible for that. If somebody asked you, if you're on site and somebody asked you to see it, you better have it with you. You have to carry it with you. And here is why I won't let anybody else fly, except under very, very limited circumstances. I will not let the other drone pilots fly underneath my waiver, because it's your butt in a sling if something goes wrong. So you're, as a certificate holder, are responsible for the strict, love that word in here, observance of terms and provisions contained herein. So if you let somebody else fly under your drone or under your waiver, I would definitely be the art pick anyway, and let them be the person manipulating the controls, which means you're standing right next to them. That way, if something does go wrong or something like that happens, you can make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and so you don't get in trouble. And we never want to be in trouble. Okay, so we have a bunch of special provisions here as well. We have some common special provisions, which is listed here. You know, you may not combine this waiver or authorization or exemptions without special authorization. Basically, then that's why if you want to fly in controlled airspace above minimums or in a zero grid, something like that, you need to go through the drone zone and apply for an airspace authorization. You cannot use Lance for this currently, but you can use the waiver in areas of outside USFMs and zero grids, things like that. You just have to apply for that authorization. A few more here, a few more here of the standard, the common special provisions, and now you have the Other special provisions. You have to have a VO, and I think for a situation like that, it's just imperative that you do have a VO. When you're working in a situation like this where you're flying over crowds, not only will the VO help you maintain situational awareness of the airspace, but also, you're going to have a bunch of people walking up to you quite possibly and asking you questions or bothering you, and that's another job for the VO. You have to be identifiable. I have vests. I know people make fun of the safety vests at times, but you have to have them here. You don't have to have a vest, but that's the quickest, easiest way to do it. I did get some custom vests with my name, or with my company name, Moss Photography, as well as two for VO and two for pilot. That way I just have extras, and get them on Amazon, super cheap, not bad. And you can get your, you can get them customized. I have like I said, my company name and my logo on there. You got a few different things here. You have to have an operational manual, which I talked about. You have to have a pre-flight inspection, which you should anyway. Pre-flight safety briefing, which you should anyway in a situation like this. Remember, pre-flight inspection actually is part of 107. This is an issue as far as I'm concerned. But number 16, I have to apply for a NOTAM 24 to 72 hours before the operation in Class G airspace, which doesn't make sense to me, at least not at first. But I guess the reasoning is if you're in Class G airspace, you don't have any other kind of notification. If you're flying in controlled airspace, there's the notification out there already that you're in the air, either via airspace authorization or LANC or whatever. They know you're there, more or less. I do not think the NOTAM is necessary personally, and my waiver modification asks that be removed. When you go fill this out, if you want to go ahead and remove that, go for it. Give it a shot. I know when Kenji filled his out, he said he does not want the NOTAM, but if the FAA requires it, so be it, or words to that effect. Another issue is if a bunch of people get this waiver and really go ahead and have to file all these NOTAMs, that's really going to screw up the NOTAM system for manned aviation. We already see some comments in areas like LA where there are a number of UAS NOTAMs filed, and traditional manned aviation are saying, look, this is really confusing the system and it's just going to cause problems. So we have the 400-foot maximum and the 500-foot minimum for traditional, 400-foot maximum for unmanned. And I know there's exceptions, so I'm not saying it's an end all be all, but that separation is already there. So I think it's unnecessary and it could actually cause problems. So hopefully that will be disallowed in my modification. And again, I will post below once that happens, and I will tell you what has happened with all that fun stuff. And again, you just go through my waiver. You can either download it at the link below, or you can even go to the waiver page and download it, which is why I didn't bother hiding my address and phone number, because it's already public out there anyway. Plus, if you can't find my address, you don't know how to use Google. Here's another one, ADS-B. Make sure you don't put in your waiver that you're going to use ADS-B out as a safety mitigation. Absolutely in. Most of our DJI gear have it. I think some of the Autel have it. Or you can get your own little ADS-B reader. I think there's iPhone apps that'll do it as well. So ADS-B out is strictly forbidden, so don't do it. And here with mine, I have that 380 gram limit at the moment. I am trying to bump that up to 385 grams because the Mavic Mini, I keep saying Mavic, the Mini 4 Pro is 5 grams heavier than the Mini 3 Pro. So that's the plan there. As I mentioned, you're going to go ahead back over here to the waiver. I keep saying waiver safety explanations. And that is going to be copied and pasted into your application. So let's do that now. Let's show you what we need to do. So here we are back in the draft waivers, and here is our OOP Test 7. Remember, that's what we named it. So click on that. It's going to take you back through the responsible party, mailing address, the pilot, all that information, because we're picking up right where we left off before. And now you click Next. This is where you start doing your fun stuff. Okay, so remember we wrote all this stuff out, because if you try to do this while the drone zone is open, you will be timed out. You cannot write everything you need to write in the amount of time. I think it's 15 minutes, not sure on that. By all means, test it and let me know when you get kicked out. Comment below. But you won't be able to write everything down by the instructions you can get when you download all the information I'm giving you. You can't write everything down in time to go ahead and do what you're supposed to do. So let's go back to here. The first part you need to put in there is the 107.145. So go ahead and copy everything. So copy and paste. Scroll on up there. You don't need this part, so just go right to your first question. Again, these are the questions, if you remember, so copy that. And again, here's 107.145, and just paste that right in here, okay? Here is the question. There is your answer. Now, the answers for 107.145 is quite a bit different than what you're going to get in 107.39. They're basically the same waiver, sort of, in that you can go ahead, since you can fly over people, you can fly over the people in moving vehicles. So that's why that particular part is there. So we'll go back in here again. We'll go back to the 107.39 and copy all that. If you notice that, this is a lot longer. So again, we'll copy this. Scroll. A lot of information here. Keep going. And there we go. Copy that. Go. So then paste that into the operations over people, and here is your waiver safety explanation in there. Okay. So those two parts are done. Both of your safety explanations are done. Parameters, again, this is March 31st, so I'm just going to say December 31st as my start date. 2014, where am I? 2023. And now I'm going to go to December 31st, 2026, because that's as far as you can go. Now remember, if you get it granted before this date here, then they'll just change the date. If you get it granted afterwards, they'll just change the date. And my waiver is good till December 31st, 2027. So I'm going to assume here that once you get your application, it will also be good till then. Which gives me great hope, the fact that it's so far down the road, that maybe these rules will change by then, just like what they did with the daylight waivers. Okay, so proposed location of operation. This is where we go back in here again, and this is where we talk about where we want to fly. Okay, so here's your proposed location operation. You don't need all that stuff there. Copy it. Go into here. And there you go. All of controlled and uncontrolled airspace. If operations take place within controlled airspace, no flight will take place outside of the UAS FM limits as published on the FAA UAS data map, because that will be part of your operational data or your provisions, without further coordination. So you need to, again, you've got to get that other coordination via the drone zone. And at the bottom of that waiver application, which you'll see here in just a minute, because it's the same thing, not waiver application, sorry, airspace application, you'll see that there's an option to include a waiver. Proposed max rule, that's 400 foot again, with that 400 foot radius. And that's only in G airspace. Remember, we cannot use the 400 foot radius in controlled airspace up to UAS FM limits. Again, over limits, we're talking about up here. We'll get that there. Okay, maximum flight. Again, you're going to want 400 here. That's just what the maximum is. If you do more than 400 feet, you're going to have to apply for another waiver. Not worth it. And is there an existing waiver? Here is where you're going to put no in this one, obviously, because it's a brand new waiver. But if you were going to apply for an airspace authorization, you would click yes, and then it'll populate all your things down there. Oops, went the wrong way. It'll populate all your waivers and authorizations there. But I'm going to click no. Click next, and it will let you review. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you don't review yet. I keep forgetting this part. Every time I do this, I keep forgetting this part. When you click next, it will give you the option of adding inventory to your application. I currently have, when I did this originally, it was for the Mini 3 right here. So I clicked that and I added it to it. And for the waiver modification, I did the Mini 4, which is somewhere on here. There it is right there. So I did that. But if you don't have it, it's okay. You do not have to have the drone before you fill out the application. You don't have to have a 107 to fill out a waiver application, believe it or not. So you can do this before you get your 107. You have to have your 107 to use it, obviously, but you don't have to have your 107 to start it. So we're going to leave this blank for now. And again, if you've got one, go ahead and click it. See a boom, you can add that to it, but I'm not going to do that. And then you click next, and it gives you your waiver right here. So go ahead and go through it, read it, double check it, make sure you have the right information, make sure you have it spelled right, make sure you have the right punctuation, because again, this your job is to make it easier for the waiver application person to approve your waiver. And if you've got this written in plain English, well spelled, no errors, you're going to be much more likely to go ahead and get it. The operational parameters, again, we do that here, all this stuff, and then you click submit. I am not going to click submit, obviously, because then it goes in and it goes to the waiver office. But click submit, you get a nice little approval or a nice little notification from the waiver office that says, hey, we got it, thank you. We'll go ahead and let you know when we get it. Again, so right now we're talking, I'm going to guess 2 to 3 months out, maybe sooner than that. I know there are a lot of applications in right now. Last I heard a couple months ago, there were 300 waiver applications in the queue. Not all ops over people. Again, these are waivers for all different types of waiver situations under 107. I think they might also do other waivers there as well. But so that kind of gives you an idea what you need to do. Once you get your waiver, I'm going to strongly suggest, even before you get your waiver actually, get your drone, either the Mini 3 or the Mini 4 if you want to do the Mini 4. Pro, put those prop guards on it and test fly it under all kinds of certain situations or different situations. When I first flew it, I was blessed enough to be able to actually fly at CSU. They found out I had it. They knew I was getting one actually because I work with them a little bit up at the CSU Drone Center. And they fly the CSU home games every year and have for the last, I think, 2 years, maybe 1 year. I can't remember. But they fly the CSU home games. And what they do then is they broadcast onto the scoreboard. And so you get fun drone shots and that kind of thing when they're having the game. When I got my waiver, the Ops Over People waiver, Ops Over Moving Vehicle waiver, they asked me if I'd like to come up and fly their first home game this year. And it was a lot of fun. We got to be up on the scoreboard, like I mentioned. Couldn't fly over the field while the game was in progress, as per NCAA rules. But we were able to fly post-game, pre-game, and then halftime as well. But one of the shots we did was got over the field, and as the team ran out through the hallway there or through the tunnel, and they had the pyrotechnics going off, and I nice backwards reveal coming up out of that, and it was awesome. It was really neat to be part of that. The crowd loved it, and it was the first time they'd done something like that, so it was pretty cool. We obviously had VOs with us. There were 2 of us flying. I think we had either 4 or 5 VOs, depending on the time. And one of the VOs, their only job was to tell us when we were actually on the screen. We were not in communication with the production office downward who was deciding what to put on the screen. So they just, if they saw a shot, they put it up there. And we were told we need to keep up and don't screw up. So I was really nervous first time, and so that's okay to be nervous when you're flying over people like that. And then the other issue again is wind. And if you notice in this video, there is a lot of wind. You look at the trees on the bottom left there, or the left side, you'll see there's a lot of wind. When I got there on site, it was for the Pueblo Chili Festival. A buddy of mine is doing a documentary on the Pueblo Chili, and we wanted some aerial footage of that. And we could fly right over the Midway, among other things. It was windy, so I wasn't sure I wanted to fly. So we went somewhere close, empty parking lot. I put the drone up, and I determined it was okay to fly, with the exception if it got windier, I couldn't. So make sure you understand how things fly, how your drone flies when you do have the prop cages on it, because it does fly. It's a different animal altogether. It's not as responsive. Make sure you turn off your sensors, because it can, at times, especially the side sensors, if it sees the cage, it doesn't fly. So make sure you turn your sensors off, because it'll think something's in the way. But other than that, they fly fairly well. The Mini 3 flies great. I have not had a chance to fly the Mini 4 with prop cages yet. I do have the cages now. I just got them this week, and it snowed Saturday, so I have not had a chance to fly it yet. But I would imagine that it's going to fly just as good, if not better, than the Mini 3. But they do fly separately. So make sure you do practice and you understand what your flight characteristics are with the cages on it. For instance, again, at the CSU game, I flew out over the field and I stopped, and the thing started porpoising. Kind of gave you a little sphincter tightening moment there. But it flew fine. It's what it does. It's the characteristics of it. So you need to make sure and be prepared for that. I think that's it. Let me know below if you have any questions, and I can go ahead and hopefully get on the stick and get some of these answered for you. And then let me know if you get it, and let me know if you apply for a different drone. I know others have applied. I know somebody's applied for the Avata. If you have a small enough FPV that you've made, remember you do need remote ID. go ahead and do that. Maybe one of the Autel drones, the lighter Autel drones, the Nanos, maybe the Light Plus, something like that. Maybe even in the Air 2S, Air 3, whatever. Give it a shot. It's all about kinetic energy transference. So if you can do the calculations, which will be below, you have a couple of links where you can do your own calculations if you want. Give it a shot. Let us know if it works. The FAA is all about crawl, walk, run, and I think we're kind of in the walk stage with ops over people at this point, maybe even the speed walking stage with this particular waiver. And let me know how it goes. So thanks a lot. If you like what you see here, we are not charging as DSPA. We are not charging for this waiver. We feel we're here to elevate this industry, no pun intended. But if you find it useful, we are a 501c6 member-supported organization, and Kenji and I use the funds from the DSPA membership to pay for our travel expenses to things like the AAAC meetings, some of the other meetings we have around. And also, since we are now both part of the DST, the drone safety team, we'll have meetings with that. So, we have a donate button if you'd like to give us a little bit of a donation as a thank you for this waiver, or join us. We do have the membership as well. You'll see a link below. Go ahead and do that. And again, thank you very much. Go out there, fly safe, support Pilot Institute, Blue Drones or Blue Sky Drones if you need something. Great folks in both organizations, and we'll have links to that as well. So everybody fly safe and have a great day. Bye-bye.